and welcome to Among the Jungle podcast. I'm botanist and host, Shii Kaina, and I'd love for you to join me as I interview the incredible plant people of Instagram to create an audio vault of inspiring botanical knowledge while harnessing a deeper connection with us in our natural world. If you're ready, it's time to inspire your wild. Welcome back, Jungle Dwellers, to the summer season and episode number 16 of Among the Jungle podcast. Today's episode was highly requested by listeners, by community members, and by TikTokers. And since many of the plants we bring home today are indeed toxic, I think it's a really important subject to explore. But first, I'd like to give our newest Patreon supporter a shout out. Thank you, Lexi. With your help, we're working towards our goal of planting 5,000 trees this year. Deep gratitude from myself and from Mother Gaia. Another summer announcement is that Among the Jungle podcast is now accepting advertisers. So expect to see aligned advertisements popping up here and there in our episodes. We will only be accepting advertisers that share an aligned mission with us of eco-consciousness and sustainability. And our dollars are a powerful way to direct change. I so look forward to using our combined influence to change the world. If you happen to know a friend that has plants and a cat or dog, pause now and share this episode with them. I'm sure they'll learn something valuable, but most importantly, with increased popularity in many toxic plant species, it's so important we know how to create a safe environment for us and for our pets. Today we will learn what to consider when mixing pets and plants, common toxic and non-toxic plants, and other pet-safe gardening practices. The show notes for this episode can be found at amongthejungle.com/016. There I will include a downloadable document as well as screenshotable graphics on social media, so you'll have access to all the important information included in this episode right at your fingertips. Get ready to explore how to make your pets and plants a whole lot happier. Welcome, friends and fur friends, to the jungle. Thank you for this highly requested episode. And let's talk about some things to consider when you want to mix plants and pets. And let's start with what I'm talking about when I say pets. For the purposes of this episode, I'm primarily talking about cats and dogs. If there is a specification I need to make between the two, I will, but for the most part, I will reference cats and dogs as a collective in this episode under the term pets. I'm really going to begin with talking about your home ecosystem. This is something I mention a lot when I go live and when I talk to you guys one-on-one in virtual plant consultations. Your home is an ecosystem. You are a part of that ecosystem. Your plants, your pets, your roommate, partner, family, they're all a part of this ecosystem. Your home ecosystem is sacred and unique to you and all the creatures and plants that inhabit it. That's why it's absolutely crucial to consider every item you bring into that ecosystem. You know that saying, sparks joy, but to a whole nother level. This includes flowers, plants, toxins in all forms. A great way to determine what products are toxins that you're bringing into your home is using the app Think Dirty. I mentioned this app to you guys because it is actually one of the best to help you have a toxin-free home and honestly begin your zero waste journey because the two things are pretty hand in hand. It's important that we recognize with this new trend of bringing plants home and having all these exotic plants that we're bringing home a lot more toxic plants than ever before. Now keep in mind, a lot of the common household plants are still toxic, but we're bringing home plants now that we've never brought home before. So it's very, very important that we be doing our research before we bring these plants home, especially to creatures like cats and dogs that don't necessarily know the difference in whether or not they should be eating something or playing in something. In this episode, I will be going through several lists of toxic plants, non-toxic plants, toxic flowers, all these types of things. But it's important to understand that this list is very comprehensive and very, very long. So I will be linking in the show notes the full ASPCA's comprehensive list of toxic and non-toxic plants. Now, it doesn't have every single plant in existence, but it has tons of plants, and it's a great resource for helping you determine on the fly what plants you should be bringing home and which maybe you shouldn't. Another important thing to keep in mind when listening to this episode is that it's important to know your own pets. Some people have pets that are constantly into their plants. Perhaps you have a pet that just digs around in the soil. Maybe you have a cat that pees in the soil. Maybe you have pets that actually get in and eat all your plants. It's important to know what kind of pets you have. For myself personally, my dogs never bother my plants, so I don't really have to consider the toxicity of a plant when I decide to bring one home. I'm more concerned if a plant is toxic to me as a human because I will be the one interacting with the plant regularly. So for my home ecosystem, it's very important to me to not keep plants in my house that are very toxic to humans. Whereas plants that are toxic to my pets aren't as big of a concern because my dogs don't bother my plants. If you have pets at home that like to get into your plants, or you are perhaps bringing home a new pet, which I hope you are, this episode should give you some tips on not only what plants are toxic and non-toxic, but also some tips on deterring pets in general from your plants. Let's go ahead and dive into toxic and non-toxic plants. So I broke each of these down into 3 categories. First, I'll talk about toxic plants. Then I will talk about toxic flowers, like your vase and cut flowers that you might also bring home. And then I will be talking about toxic herbs. Likewise, I will do the same thing for non-toxic. I will talk about non-toxic plants, non-toxic flowers, and non-toxic herbs for your garden. Whether you have an indoor garden, an outdoor garden, or perhaps you're someone who just likes cut flowers. No matter what plants we're bringing into our home, we have to be mindful that even if they're not growing, like a cut flower, for example, it's still something a pet could get into that could cause it a lot of harm. So, let's go ahead and dive into toxic plants. Disclaimer: please research any and all plants you bring home related to your individual pets. Different species, like cats, humans, and dogs, react differently to different species of plants. So we have to keep in mind that what might be toxic for a cat might not be toxic for a dog. What might be toxic to a dog and a cat might not be toxic to a human. So it's important when you are researching your plants to also be researching for your specific pet. In the event of concern of toxicity or pet poisoning, please contact Pet Poison Control at 855-764-7681 and your vet immediately. Contact information will also be in the show notes. Starting right off with toxic houseplants. Aloe vera, alocasia, amaryllis, azalea, begonias, bird of paradise, caladium, calla lily, Chinese evergreen, also known as aglaonema, Dieffenbachia, also known as dumb cane, sago palm, which is toxic to humans as well, jade, philodendron and monstera species, desert rose, all ficus and fig species, including rubber tree, snake plant, pothos, peace lily, pencil cactus, also toxic to humans, umbrella tree, tomato, ivy, and eucalyptus. Toxic flowers. Anything mentioned under toxic plants that gets a flower, the flower is also toxic. But here's a list of some other cut flowers that are also toxic: baby's breath, carnations, tulips, poinsettia, iris, daffodils, and peonies. Toxic herbs. Garlic and chives, marijuana, chamomile, St. John's wort, lemongrass, mint, oregano, yarrow, and lavender. Now for non-toxic plants. I'm very excited to share this list with you because while it seems like most of our favorite plants are on the toxic list, I think you'll be surprised to find a lot of our favorites are actually on this non-toxic list. Disclaimer: even though these plants are known to be non-toxic to cats and dogs, that does not mean they will not have an individual allergic reaction or other types of reactions such as irritation, vomiting, etc. if much of a plant is ingested. Please research any and all plants you bring home. And of course, in the event of concern, please contact Pet Poison Control. Your new best friends, non-toxic plants. African violets, some ferns including Boston, rabbitfoot, bird's nest, and asparagus fern, banana, spider plant, Venus flytraps, areca palms, Calathea species, friendship plant or Pelea species, polka dot plant or Hypoeste species, peperomia species, and there are lots of peperomias, y'all. Orchids, which the flowers are also edible for humans, mosaic plant, also known as Photonia species, bromeliads, ponytail palm, Norfolk Island pine, bamboo, purple tradescantia, cast iron plant, all your holiday cactus, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, staghorn ferns, lipstick plant, maranta, money tree, and Hoyas. Pet-safe flowers include any of the plants I listed above, all of their flowers, as well as aster, astermaria, daisies, marigolds, pansies, petunia, roses, snapdragons, sunflowers, zinnia, and nasturtiums. Pet-safe herbs, witch hazel, echinacea, licorice, dandelion, calendula, basil, cilantro, dill, bee balm, rosemary, thyme, and if you're looking for two plants that are great stimulants for cats, the well-known catnip, but also the less-known valerian, which is also a cat stimulant, just like catnip. There are lots of things to consider when bringing plants home. But let's make its compatibility in our home ecosystem a priority. It's best for the health of everyone. So here are some tips of how we can create a more balanced home ecosystem. First of all, ID all plants before bringing them home, especially if you have pets that like to get into your plants. A simple Google search can save you so much trouble and vet bills and heartache. Just Google the plant that you're about to buy in relation to the species of pet that you have at home. And then double check. Make sure a couple sources confirm the same information. Even Google the opposite of that. Here's an example. Let's say you Googled, is Monstera safe for cats? And then you find a resource. Now find another resource. Then Google, is Monstera toxic for cats? Google the opposite. This is a great habit to just get into in general of Googling the opposite of what you think you already know, and you can learn so much more. Double check your information. That way you can make sure you're making a solid decision. For those of you out there looking to keep your pets out of your plants, perhaps they're not eating them, but maybe they're digging in the soil or doing some other things. The most important technique we can really use is training our pets. This does not work for everyone, but it's the best way to have control over the situation is to train them to be deterred by your plants. There are several techniques out there for dogs and cats on how to do this, and your dog or cat is going to have a different experience than other dogs and cats. So you'll have to find the one that works for you and your pet. Since I am a dog person and I have exclusively dogs and chicks at home, I have included in the show notes a video specifically for cat people and cat parents that goes into the details of several different ways you can use to deter cats from your plants. The number one thing that she does iterate in her video that I would like to reiterate here is not to use cayenne pepper as a deterrent. If the cayenne pepper gets on your cat's paws and then later it begins to lick or rub its eyes, it can cause very severe burning. And a cat can seriously injure itself by trying to get the spice out of its eyes. So please, please, please be mindful of not using cayenne pepper techniques. And with that being said, please double check and Google all life hacks, things like that. Make sure they actually make logical sense and it's not just something that seems like a good idea. Do a little extra research. It will only take a minute and you can find the information that you're looking for. Citrus is one of the best ways that she recommends for deterring cats. They are really deterred by citrus. You can use citrus peels, but that will stop working once the scent kind of dries out of the peels. Another way of doing this would be using a diluted spray of citrus oil with water. My number one recommended way is moving your plants up high. I know this is more difficult for cats, but the best method for dog people especially is if you just move it up off the floor. 9 times out of 10, your dog is not going to bother it anymore. Cats are a little harder to get things away from. For cats, it's really, really, really important that you keep their litter box and space clean. This is one of the number one reasons that they would get in to bother your plant to begin with. You can add deterrents like stones to the top of your pots or things that make sound like aluminum foil around your plants, which could create a negative sound response, making them not want to be near your plants anymore. Like I said, the video goes into full detail. She actually covered a lot of the recommended tips I already had for you guys, and she's used several of them. She explains both the pros and the cons of working with each of the techniques, and I thought it was a very useful video for those of you out there who are cat people. Her recommendation at the very end of what she got to be the most successful way of training her cats was using a water spray bottle. She does not recommend that you spray the cat itself. It's just about creating a negative response, then retraining the cat with a positive response. So, if the cat got near the plant or is doing something that she didn't want, then she would spray the wall or the floor near the cat. It would startle the cat, and then she would bring the cat over either to a plant that it could have or away from the plants, and then she would give the cat a treat. So there's several ways that you can go about your own methods of training at home. Please use your own discretion with taking this cat advice and the advice from the video, as I do not have cats personally. I have in the past, but I do not have cats now, and so this is a problem I don't face personally. Lastly, I really want to talk about creating a pet-friendly garden. One of the main ways that you can create a pet-friendly garden is keeping your pets in mind in the design. It's important to add elements that attract your pets, that are for your pets. Certain areas or plants or things that they are allowed to participate in and enjoy. And then sectioning off areas where they're not allowed to go or you don't want them to be, or training them to stay out of those areas. The number one thing I recommend to create a pet-safe garden is organic gardening practices, both indoors and outdoors. It is so important to not bring toxins into your home or garden. Even your lawn, spraying your garden with fertilizers and pesticides. Your dogs are much closer to the ground. Their face, your cats, they're so close to the ground and so much closer and exposed to these chemicals. Please, 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 if you have pets at home, make it a priority to use organic gardening practices. If you need ideas on what to do for both indoors and outdoors, follow me on TikTok at Among the Jungle. I'm always giving indoor and outdoor organic gardening advice. Also creating elements, like I said, where they can venture around. For dogs, this could look like large stones or a viewpoint where they can look out and see over the yard. For a cat, this could look like somewhere to climb. And then, of course, reducing toxins with all of our household items using the Think Dirty app, allowing us to only bring home healthy things to create a thriving home ecosystem. Because I know at the end of the day, we all want what's best for our plants and pets. I know I've mentioned the harm of fast fashion on the environment in previous episodes. But did you know that 97% of the shoes that we're all wearing right now will wind up in a landfill and will take over 1,000 years to decompose? Thankfully, there's a company working to change all that. Introducing Thousand Fell. This full-circle footwear company has created a closed-loop system where you simply return your shoes after maximum use. Your shoes will either be recycled or donated to someone in need through Souls for Souls. All you have to do is print a free shipping label, ship your shoes back to the recycling facility, and then receive a $20 credit towards your next pair. Did I mention Thousand Fell shoes are made from recycled plastic bottles and some of our favorite plants, like aloe, coconut, palms, castor beans, and even sugarcane? The green ones are my personal favorite. You can check them out in the show notes or at thousandfell.com. Thousandfell, FELL.com. And to get free shipping, use code FSJungle at checkout. Thousand Fell, the best shoes for a better tomorrow. Won't you step forward and join us in change? I am so grateful to the plants that bless this beautiful earth, and to you for choosing to nurture a wild place inside of your heart. I hope this episode inspired your wild, and I'd love to hear your feedback, suggestions for future guests, and other botanical notes at amongthejungle.com or amongthejungle on Instagram. It's been lovely exploring this exotic world with you today, and I look forward to where the journey takes us next week. Mahalo for tuning in, and stay wild.